Resilience and optimism. Wow, two very positive and empowering words, particularly in the difficult world that we live in today. I'm not going to make you all suffer death by PowerPoint today. It's difficult enough to grab everybody's attention in an audience of colleagues at the best of conferences, let alone having to stare at a screen for hours. But at least some of you can do it in your pajamas today, and you don't have to wait ages for your car to come back from valet parking. So there are some pluses in these video conferences. I'm also hoping not to lecture anyone about what I think of the world and what's wrong today. The challenges for our industry are plain for all of us to see. What I'd like to try and achieve in this session is no more than to provoke thought in how we might all work together to get through these strange times and paint a picture of what I think is going to be a shift in the way we think as we come out of this. And I'd like to start by thanking David and his team at MECSC for adding the +R to the council's title. I'm one of those R's, although I've got to be careful how I say that. By adding the +R, it's clear recognition that shopping centres and retailers are intrinsically linked. We occupy the same industry space and our relationship is extremely and uniquely symbiotic. Just over a month ago, I posted a video on LinkedIn. It was a personal message. I've been furloughed indefinitely in Dubai, so I've decided to return to the UK where I'm speaking from now. And I made a short 2.5 minute video to reach out to companies and recruiters. To my surprise, that video has been viewed 2.6 million times. That in itself has been a very humbling experience and exciting in many ways, and has led to a lot of tangible leads that I hope will ultimately get me a job. And that was all I was asking, not for a job itself, just the opportunity to engage with retailers, recruiters and decision makers directly, face to face, to engage, have a conversation. From the 2.6 million views, about 60,000 people viewed my LinkedIn profile, which is effectively our digital CV these days. But more interestingly were the comments and messages coming through, thousands of them, offering words of support and encouragement, sharing ideas and offers to talk. And I'm going to come back to that a bit later on. But the words resilience and optimism did pop up a lot from time to time, so opportune. So what is the dictionary definition of resilience? That's the first thing I thought I'd look at. There are many, but I think the one that's most apt today, I think, is the ability to recover from difficulties, the ability to recover from difficulties. And nothing is more apt for our industry and many others around the world today. Times are tough. Times are hard for everyone at the moment, particularly in our industry. Consumer confidence is shot to pieces and spends are down. Operating costs for both retailers and landlords remain high, so we're both in the same boat there. Online sales are perceived to be stealing from the bricks and mortar sale. That's a discussion in itself. And as a result, bricks and mortar store traffic is down. Stores are closing and malls, are struggling to fill the vacated space. So in short, both malls and retailers, we've got to up our game. We've got to up our game together. I don't do a lot of business speak, but in 1970, in his book Future Shock, which by the way is a great name for a book today, Alvin Toffler, who was a writer and was for a while the editor of Fortune magazine and a businessman today would probably be called a futurist, wrote the following. He wrote that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those people who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and learn again. And nothing could be truer for retailers and malls today. So it's time for things to change. Is it time to think? Ask ourselves. I would say categorically yes. Both malls and retailers must come up with fresh and creative ideas to face the challenges of a post-COVID retail landscape. And by the way, we were heading for trouble long before COVID struck. I think we all knew this, and yes, I've got some thoughts and I'd like to share on it. Malls need to talk with their retailers, not at them. And it works both ways. And while I don't mean to sound in any way critical to the leasing guys amongst us today, we've often talked about transparency in what we do, but I think both parties have played a bit of lip service to that. It's clear that malls are doing their bit to help. They've been very accommodating with rent breaks and debt referral, and I think they've done a fantastic job. And going forward, guys, it's their resilience that's going to be tested. So even greater transparency is going to be needed by both sets of protagonists, the retailer and the mall. What does that mean? I think it means effectively open book discussions, examining retailers' P&Ls very closely to understand where the pinch points are, and also to evaluate how do the retailers stack up against each other. We all know that retail mix is fundamental to the success of a mall, and we've got to examine that from a revenue, not just a revenue point of view, but from a sustainability point of view in our malls. How many sports shoe retailers or burger joints can a mall realistically support in order that each of those outlets makes a profit and can pay their dues, their rents and operating costs? And retailers, I think they need to understand the financial pressures that are on the malls and come up with a compromise. A realistic compromise that suits both partners. In all businesses, if the numbers don't stack up, leasing managers, I think, have to tell retailers, and it's a tough call, sorry guys, I just can't see how you're going to make this work. And on a slightly contentious issues, and again, I don't mean to be critical, we're going to have to move away from toxic leases that retailers can't get out of, where the lease can be perceived as the gun, and the post-dated checks are the bullets. And I think we can all read into that what we will. And retailers, what about you guys? Well, I'm a retailer, and if I had to write a school report summary today about our industry, it would read something along the lines of, should do better. I did a podcast for MECSC plus R, where I talked about the impact of online sales to bricks and mortar traffic. Retailers, online is not going away. And moreover, I don't think online sales is the reason people aren't visiting the shops. I think it's because shopping is no longer a great experience. It's simply not compelling enough for the customer. Our stores have got bigger and brighter, but service levels are almost non-existent or have fallen away, and we're failing to engage with the consumer on a face-to-face level. That word engagement again. We no longer share product knowledges. We've deprived ourselves as retailers of an upselling opportunity, and we've got no way to connect at a human level anymore. Talk with the customer instead of at the customer. We think we're connecting with social media, but other than bombarding them with offers and discounts, which we all know is a recipe for disaster, by the way, are we really talking to them? Are we really finding out what they like about us or what they want from us? What can we do for them? Store designs are probably going to have to change in the future to effectively become the 3D landing page for omni-channel business. But at a very human level, unless the visits to our stores are interesting, fun, engaging, and above all memorable, guess what? Customers aren't going to come back. So both malls and retailers both have to be resilient in order to recover, and we've got to be creative. We've got to engage with one another. I feel a bit like a marriage counsellor, sorry, for retailers and operators, so I apologise for that. And what of optimism, hopefulness and confidence about the future? That's its definition, optimism. Well, if you're a mall post-COVID, or a new mall that hasn't opened yet, I think you have a great opportunity to rewrite the rule books. We see this happening in other industries around the world. Look at the evolution of electric cars, renewable energy, digital marketing. We need to reinvent ourselves. And if COVID has taught us anything, it's that we're all in this together. And yes, mall operators in turn, you'll need to have those discussions with your stakeholders and investors and banks. because the world has changed for them too. It's a knock-on effect down the line. And so back to my video, and it's 2.6 million views. I've genuinely not received a negative comment, not one, so I'm very fortunate. The majority of messages I've received are not offering me jobs or interviews. They're predominantly empathising with my situation and offering support. And above all, hope and confidence. The very definition of optimism for the future. In the end, it was about my own creativity that opened up the dialogue and theirs when they managed to engage. So from an optimistic point of view, I'm confident that just as we'll overcome COVID on a societal level, that we'll overcome those challenges as an industry. There are just too many smart people in industry today for that to happen. So I'll leave you with my video and hope in some way it encourages everybody to connect, to engage. The video finishes with the words, "Let's talk."
My name is Paul Marks. I have 40 years of retail operations and business development experience, and I'm looking for a job. If you're wondering what all those press-ups were all about, I do around 40 or 50 a day, and I run about 30k a week. I'll come back to that in a minute. By the way, I will be 60 in 2 weeks' time. COVID-19 has decimated many businesses and industries, and none more so than retail. And it's robbed me of a job that I love and that I'm passionate about. And by the way, those 40 press-ups and 30k stuff, it's not my way of showing how fit I may or may not be. It's my way of saying that not all 60-year-olds are grey-haired gardeners or sit around drinking tea and watching sport all day. Not that I'm adverse to either. I'm returning to the UK after a number of years of living and working abroad, and I'm finding it impossible to speak to recruiters face to face, even informally, over a cup of coffee. The fact is that the complexities and to a degree the necessity in the way in which online recruitment works these days means that it's difficult for people like me to get past what feels a little bit like selection by algorithm. I need to meet people. So, this is my call to action, my way of introducing myself to recruiters out there who may be put off by my age, my level of experience, or what you think my salary expectations might be. They're not important to me right now. I'm just passionate about retailing and I want to get out in a field role again. I want to be engaging with customers, working with business partners, and above all, in a team and leadership position again. I have bags of energy, years of experience, and a good 10 to 15 years left in me. So for potential employers and recruiters out there, all I ask is this. Please look past my age and seniority and think about the tangible value that years of experience can bring to a company at any level. So thank you for watching, and through LinkedIn you know where you can find me, or better still, pick up the phone and let's talk.